Greetings, fellow gamers. I'm the Soulsborne Seeker, and today I'll be reviewing Teslagrad 2, a steampunk-themed puzzle platformer Metroidvania title inspired by Scandinavian history and folklore, developed by Rain Games and released in April of 2023 for PC, PS4, PS5, Nintendo Switch, Xbox Series S and X, as well as Xbox One. Teslagrad 2 is a sequel to the original well-received Teslagrad that came out in 2013 and was embraced by fans of Metroidvania games who had enjoyed the platforming and puzzle elements it featured. Though not a direct continuation of the original story, Teslagrad 2 functions as a spiritual successor by setting its foundation on what made the initial game a success in the first place, although it definitely struggles while doing so. In Teslagrad 2 you take on the role of Lumina, a young Teslamancer trying to get home to her family back in Teslagrad. Unfortunately, her airship is attacked by an army of hostile Vikings, leading to her crash landing in the treacherous land of Wyrmheim, a place that draws heavily from Nordic myths and legends. Alone and away from home, Lumina embarks on a journey across this mysterious world, eventually discovering that the Viking raiders on her trail might be the least of her worries. As she explores, more and more of Wyrmheim's dark history begins to emerge, leading to her coming face to face with a past that may not be as dead as initially thought. The story of Teslagrad 2 definitely has potential, featuring elements of love, loss, anger, and betrayal. The main issue is that said story is not conveyed in a meaningfully engaging way, leading to you not really becoming invested in any of the characters since you don't get to know them that well, including Lumina herself. The plot is revealed primarily through certain cards that are the main collectible of the game, and while the art on them is beautiful and once gathered things begin to make sense, it's still not enough for a complete understanding. Aside from the cards, you will also find a few screens that, when turned on, will play a brief movie of things that have come to pass, but I found that a bit jarring since it felt like it broke my immersion and pulled me out of the world, placing me in the position of an idle watcher. I would have liked it if the story had been integrated more organically into the experience since, as it stands now, it doesn't allow for any significant emotional investment, which was clearly something the team was going for. Speaking about the world, the game's setting is definitely one of its strong points, though there are a few things dragging it down here as well. Wyrmheim features some incredibly beautiful areas to visit and explore that borrow generously from Nordic geography and architecture. Places like the main village, as well as some of the underground areas and the central tower, have a lot going for them in terms of aesthetics, to the point where you will sometimes pause and marvel at the visuals. On the other hand, it felt like certain biomes did not receive as much attention as others. For example, the snowy mountain area appeared a bit bland and unremarkable, with its bluish and white colorations sometimes meshing together in a way that made the background dull. Thankfully, the visually appealing areas outweigh the dreary ones, meaning that most of the exploration is quite interesting to engage in. Now, regarding the exploration and discovery aspects, this is where the game's main gameplay mechanic comes into play. The title's primary gimmick is magnetic physics, with the majority of its puzzles and platforming sections relying heavily on accurate control of the positive and negative pull and push forces. While this is interesting and sounds fun on paper, unfortunately the execution is less than stellar. There is no denying that it is satisfying to utilize this power in order to go through certain segments of the game. However, there is a distinctive sense of clunkiness when using this power, which at times makes traversing some of the harder areas of the world an exercise in frustration. There were many instances in which using the power 5 separate times could result in 5 different outcomes. For example, while trying to use certain negatively charged parts of the world to make high jumps, I would sometimes gain different heights even though I was certain I was doing the same thing over and over again. When it works as intended, it's really entertaining, but when it doesn't, it can lead to tedium. Adding to that is also the clunkiness of the controls while using your powers, which can lead to some instances of chaos since it becomes hard for you to control Lumina when she has gained too much momentum. I should also mention that my playthrough softlocked a couple of times due to the power of magnetism not functioning properly, which got me stuck in some places and forced me to restart from the latest checkpoint. Thankfully, Teslagrad 2 is very generous with its checkpoints, which does lessen the irritation quite a bit. Staying on the exploration aspect, the game does feature the standards of what you would expect from the genre. You gain new abilities as you progress through the story, as well as some optional ones that are off the beaten path, and you use said abilities to backtrack and reach previously inaccessible areas of the world, though I did find that learning how to use the magnetic power somewhat effectively can allow you to get to places earlier than expected. One thing I would have liked to see in relation to exploring would have been a teleportation room system that allows you to jump around the map more easily. The game features a series of hookshots that you can use to move around faster, which, I will admit, is fun and impressive to watch, but it still makes backtracking a nuisance when you need to visit the other side of the world. Another element of the game I found a bit lackluster were the bosses. There aren't that many big bads for you to face, and most of the ones that are here aren't that impressive, neither from a visual perspective, nor from a gameplay one. They can be a bit challenging to take down until you figure out their strategy, but once you do that you can beat them relatively easy, and your only challenge will be the awkward and sometimes inconsistent nature of your power during the fights. Special mention should be made about the music of Teslagrad 2. The game boasts one of the most haunting and relaxing soundtracks I've heard in a while, and it fits perfectly with the ambience of the world, making it a standout feature. Finally, the game's length is a bit disappointing when compared to its price point of $20. It will take you about 2 hours to finish the main story, with an additional hour if you want to complete it 100%, so keep that in mind when deciding on a purchase, though my recommendation would be to wait for a sale. Overall, my time with Teslagrad 2 was a mixed bag. I really liked the world despite certain bland areas, and had fun exploring the map even though a lot of the time the powers of magnetism were working against me. On the other hand, I was disappointed by the boss fights and story delivery, as well as the frustration that would give rise when things turned chaotic with my power. There's definitely a strong foundation for a quality Metroidvania game here, but I think a bit more time in development to polish certain aspects of it would have benefited Teslagrad 2 greatly. My final verdict on Teslagrad 2 is 5.5 out of 10. What did you think about Teslagrad 2? Have you played it yet? Are you planning to? Do you agree with the points I mentioned, or do you see things differently? Let me know in the comments below, and please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, Soulsborne Seeker out.